grab a drink, get comfy, and prepare to learn about
the strange, the unusual, and the downright stupid things you didn't think that you needed to know about.
I'm Kayla.
And I'm Brooke.
And this is Drunk in the Library. Hello, everybody. Welcome back.
We are very excited to have everyone here today, as per usual. So we're going to start off with our normal shit, support, like we love to talk about.
Please support us.
So, as of now, we have a website.
Woohoo!
Which is very exciting. So, if you don't like just scrambling about to find all of us all over the internet, now you can go to our website and find us all in one freaking place. Finally.
Literally everything is there. Mm-hmm. And I update weekly, so it might, lag a little bit behind. But it'll all get up there.
So, we have a website, we have a YouTube, we have a Goodreads, we have all social medias, all that fun shit. And we still have our Anchor page, obviously, because that's who we're hosted through. But they have a nice little support button that you can use to donate to us if you really feel like it, which would be nice, but you don't have to do that. So, I think that's kind of our spiel for support things. And
please talk to us, be our friend, because we're interested in knowing more about all 15 of you guys. Even you, Mom.
That fabulous 15. The fabulous 15 fans. We love you guys. Tell your friends so that we can
do this for you.
We get together to tell you 15 these weird stories about nothing in particular. So.
I feel like there was something specific I wanted to say about that, but I don't remember what.
About our 15 fans?
No, about like support and us. But I don't remember now, though. I feel like there was something specific I wanted to say, but I don't remember what it was. So.
Oh. That's okay. If it comes to you at any point, just fucking shout it out.
I will. I'll interrupt.
No, it's okay. I figured it out. This is what we're going to talk about. Alrighty,
All right.
So first things first, what you drinking?
All right, I am drinking tequila and some peach seltzer, and I think today I went with the hibiscus passion fruit syrup.
I think, so I have tequila seltzer, and I chose the, wasn't the passion fruit, what's the other one? Dragon fruit.
Man, we really got to get Jordan Syrups to sponsor us.
Yeah, I know, because I tell everybody about them, and that's like all I drink at this point, so.
Let's tag them when this episode comes out. Maybe they'll pay attention.
It's like, listen, Jordan.
I don't even know that they have an Instagram.
They might. I think they do. I've never checked. I should check.
Me either.
But yeah, we should tag them because, once again, I drink them almost every episode. And
yeah. I thought you were going to say almost every day, and like...
I mean, also that too. Also, I apologize because I feel a sneeze coming on, but it just kind of stuck. So
I hate that feeling.
I know. It'll happen randomly. It's because I don't even know if I took my allergy medication today. Whoops.
They don't have an Instagram account, which is disappointing. But maybe we can reach out to them.
They probably have a Facebook and stuff. I'll find them. I will hunt them down, and they will be happy for me to tell the world about these syrups.
Okay, anyway. Brookie, you are up first today.
Okie dokie. So, I honestly didn't know what I was going to do this week because I have a huge list, but like, you just need to like feel certain things.
Sometimes you're not in the mood.
Yeah, like I just wasn't feeling anything on my list. So, this one kind of popped into my head after reading a book that it was in that I have, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna cover this in full. So, today I'm going to be telling you about the mysterious death of Edgar Allan Poe.
Ah, yes. Do you know I'm a Poe-hard?
Yeah. Do you know anything about his death?
I know that he died in the gutters of Baltimore.
Wrong.
Oh.
Yes.
Everything I thought was true was wrong.
He was found in the gutters of Baltimore, but did not die there.
Okay.
So
enlighten me.
Yes. So my sources are Wikipedia, SmithsonianMag.com, and and it's called Unsolved Crimes by Sarah Herman. So I'm gonna give you a little biography of
Okay.
Poe for the people who don't know, which you should fucking know by now. Like, you don't need to read all of his works, because I haven't. I've read like 3. But, like, you should know who he is. So, Edgar Allan Poe was born January 19th in 1809 in Boston, Massachusetts, which I did not know because for some reason I just straight up associate him with only Baltimore, and that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Nope, Baltimore.
The
Not
other
Baltimore.
B city.
The other B city. Yeah, Boston. His parents were actors.
Okay.
Also didn't know that. He had an older brother named William and a younger sister named Rosalie.
Rosalie, that's a pretty name.
It is. She's never mentioned again, though, so don't get too
okay.
excited.
All right, I won't get attached to her.
Yeah.
Poor Rosalie
Rosalie Poe.
Poe.
I don't know why that sounds funny to me. So his earlier years kind of sucked.
As they generally do with writers of horror.
Yeah.
You can't write good horror unless you had a shitty childhood.
Yeah, his childhood was pretty fucking garbage. So his dad abandoned him and his family in 1810. His mother passed away from consumption, which is tuberculosis, a year later. But he was taken on by this rich merchant in Virginia who was named John Allen. I don't know how he came to be in contact with this merchant.
Okay.
It's very unclear as to how that happened. But they
Probably the classifieds.
I mean,
6-year-old for sale.
true, but also, like, Massachusetts isn't exactly close to Virginia.
That's true.
So, I don't know. But, so the Allen family took really good care of him, but also didn't, like, hesitate to be kind of, like, strict with him. Mm-hmm. So they...
Oh, wait. So the Allens are who adopted him? So
Yes.
he was just born Edgar Poe.
Yes.
The Allen was his, like, adoptive family's name. Mm-hmm. Oh, huh.
Yeah, I thought it was his
Interesting.
middle name, but it's not.
That's what I had assumed,
Nope.
too. I've never even thought twice about it.
His foster family. So, he went to a lot of schools, like, during his childhood. In 1815, he attended a grammar school in Scotland. And then in 1816, he went to London to basically rejoin his foster family who was there. And ended up attending a boarding school in Chelsea until 1817. 1820, he moved back to Virginia with the Allen family. And in 1826, he registered at the University of Virginia to study ancient and modern languages. So, like, writing wasn't his, like, first
Calling.
thing that he thought of. He really wanted to study different languages.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't know that. At that time, he also became engaged to this woman named Sarah Elmira Royster. But eventually, sadly, him and his fiance lost touch somehow. I don't...
They just, like, stopped talking.
They just stopped sending letters to each other, I guess. And his foster father basically became estranged from him because they were having a lot of arguments about, like, his foster dad not paying or not giving him enough money for school and the things that he needed.
Okay.
And also Poe kind of had a lot of gambling debts that he didn't really take care of. So they kind of had a really big falling out. So after a year, he dropped out of the university and ended up really sad because Sarah ended up marrying somebody else.
Aw.
Probably because they lost touch.
I mean, it's hard to get married if you don't know where she is.
Or if you stop talking. So if you stop talking, don't
Come on,
assume
Eddie.
that you're still, like, engaged. So in 1827, he moved back to Boston and kind of kept afloat doing, like, odd jobs. He was a clerk, a writer for a newspaper, just kind of, like, weird things. Realized he couldn't get by just doing odd jobs, as one does. And he enlisted himself in the army.
Oh. Huh.
Yeah. He actually has a pretty extensive military career, which blew my mind.
So this would probably have been about World War I time?
No, this was still, like, early 1800s.
Oh, 1800s. For some reason, I had it in my head that
It was the 1900s.
1900s,
Yeah.
yeah.
At one point,
I'm
I
sorry,
did write
I'm
down
an idiot.
19, and I was like, shit, that's not right. No, in the early 1800s.
Okay.
So, while he was in the army, he released his first book called Tamerlane and Other Poems, but nobody cared, so he really didn't sell any copies of it.
Fair.
So then months later, he was sent to South Carolina, which is with his regiment, and he was promoted from private to artificer, and his pay was doubled. So, Poe making good money for right now.
Yeah.
He's,
Good for him.
He's doing good. So then he served 2 years under the rank of sergeant major for artillery, which was the highest rank that you can get if you weren't being paid commission.
Okay.
So he was doing well.
Good for him.
But then he kind of decided he didn't want to do that anymore. So he wasn't discharged until 1829, which this is like the dumbest thing ever, but his lieutenant wouldn't discharge him until he made up with his estranged foster dad.
That seems like none of his business.
Yes. First of all, how do you know that?
Yeah, like how personal were you guys getting?
Yeah, and second of all, like, fuck you.
Yeah, you don't get to how to live my life.
You don't get to decide that shit. What if he was like fucking abusing him?
I mean, like, it's a rich dude from Virginia. He probably was.
Yeah, probably. So, you know, his foster dad was a little bitch about it, but eventually gave in. So then in 1829, he moved to Baltimore to stay with his aunt, his cousin, his brother, and his grandmother, and published his second book during this time, which was called Al Araf, Tamerlane, and Other Minor Poems. So they just kind of kept tacking on
an extra word.
Well, yes, they'd add more stories, and then they'd be like, "But we're gonna also put your other ones in there too."
Oh, okay. So it was like a collection, but they just kept adding to it,
and then adding like the name of the new thing to it. Yeah. So then in 1830, he enrolled in the United States Military Academy at West Point as a cadet, even though I thought he wanted out, but guess not. And his foster father disowned him due to more arguments. So that was kind of like the last that we hear of the Allen family.
Okay.
I think his foster mother ended up dying, which his foster father didn't really tell him about, and then he found out about it, was pissed. Arguments ensued. So eventually Poe was like, you know what, you guys can fuck off, and we're done here. So then Poe decides that he wants to get purposely court-martialed.
Doesn't that mean, like, arrested?
It means, like, yeah, like, in military.
But for the like, military.
Yeah. So, in 1820...
Army arrested.
Army arrested, yeah. So, in 1831, he's tried for gross neglect of duty and disobedience of orders for refusing to attend classes, church, and formations.
So, he joins the army, gets really high in the army, not high.
Yeah.
Decides he doesn't want to do it anymore, so he gets out of it, re-enlists.
And he goes to military academy, which I don't think is, like, the same as enlisting in the army, because he was already, like, technically enlisted. He just, like, asked to be discharged.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and, like, it's weird.
So then goes to school for it, decides he doesn't want to do it again.
Yes.
And he's like, I'm just gonna not do my job.
That is correct.
Just checking.
Well, the other part, I didn't put it in here, but the other part that I thought was kind of funny was when he was initially discharged from, like, the army, he like, wanted to be discharged early, so, like, he hadn't finished his enlistment
or tour or whatever it is.
So he had to find somebody to finish it for him. Yeah, I don't know.
Is that
an option? He was like, hey.
You want to join the army?
It's only for a couple of months. You're good. Yeah.
All right, Don Draper, for anybody who gets that reference.
So, he pleaded not guilty, knowing that they would find him guilty and dismiss him. So, yeah. He was like...
He's literally just like, I'm just gonna see how much I can fuck with them.
Yeah. And they were like, you're gone. He's like, okay. Oh no. Yeah. No, how dare you? So then, after he was released, he released another book of poems, just titled Poems.
Okay. Like, that's legit.
Clever.
It's not original, but okay. It's not illegal.
I mean, you're right. You're right. It's like if I released a book just called Book.
Yeah.
Not illegal, but stupid nonetheless. So then in August of 1831, tragedy struck the Poe family again. His brother died from ongoing health complications, including alcoholism, and kind of unintentionally lit a fire under Poe's ass. So, after the death of his brother, he was like, shit.
Oh, fuck, I'm mortal.
I gotta get real about this writing shit. So, he, like, became really serious about his attempts to become a writer. But a lot of things stood in his way at that point. So at that time period, publishers were refusing to pay writers. So, like, they just kind of expected you to do it for free. And if they did pay, a lot of times it was, like, really late. The other thing that was going on a little bit later on, but was, starting to kind of gain traction at that point, was the Panic of 1837, which would cause, like, the price of goods to skyrocket as well as unemployment. So, therefore, like, publishers would rather, reproduce copies of British works and sell that rather than, like, asking people to write new works.
Okay.
And, like, there weren't really any, like, international copyright laws at that point.
Right.
So they could kind of do that, and there was really no, like, repercussions of it. So, he kind of had a rough start in, like, starting to write anything because, like, there wasn't any, there just wasn't, like, it wasn't easy.
Okay. And about how old was he at this time?
He had to have been young, because, so this was 1831. He was, like...
just under 30?
He was, like, 20.
Okay. That gives me hope that, like, I can still make it as a writer.
I think you can. So, eventually he could get his works published in various publications. He went on to find, like, a job as a assistant editor at the Southern Literary Messenger in Richmond, Virginia. But he lasted there a month because he got fired for showing up to work drunk.
My man.
Best Poe. So, in September of 1835, he married his cousin Virginia.
Oh, man. You just keep hitting me.
I know. In every story I feel like I've told, it's like, or even when you've told them, somebody marries their fucking relative.
It's a requirement of weird history.
Yeah, brother lovers, for sure.
Yeah.
I just, like, don't understand. Even better, he was 26, she was 13.
What?
Yeah.
Poe, Edgar, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Literally half of her age.
Remember when I
Or
said
she
my
was half this
man?
age.
I'd like to retract my statement.
Are you ashamed now? So eventually he did regain his job at the Southern Literary Messenger. I don't know why I can't fucking speak
You took
today.
a little bit of the Kalis today, huh?
I did. I'm also sweating because of the sunburn and starting to feel the alcohol. As an assistant editor, he remained there for 2 years, which was a really long time for him to hold a job without showing up to work drunk.
Yeah. Congrats, dude.
So, over the following years, he actually would hold a lot of assistant editor jobs at a lot of publications. And he also, like, released a lot of stories and collections of his own. A lot of them weren't, like, mentioned, though, which was weird. I think it's just because they're, like, such short stories and poems that, like, they don't really... Like, they might include them in, like, bigger works of his, but I couldn't really find...
It's not worthy to, like, know which one wound up in which paper.
Yeah,
because they're probably all in an anthology.
Yeah. So, like, some of the things that he wrote was the narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket. That was in 1838. He published that through the Southern Literary Messenger. He went on to work for another publication called Burton's Gentleman's Magazine, and that's where he released Tales of the Grotesque and Arabesque, and that was in 1839. But that received, like, mixed reviews, so a lot of people, like, it didn't really take off.
Okay.
So then in January of 1842, his cousin/wife... His cousin wife, Virginia, started showing signs of tuberculosis.
Oh, no.
She broke a blood vessel in her throat while singing.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's
that
just...
sounds awful.
It sounds disgusting.
Oh, I don't know what happens, but I have a mental image.
I do, too, and there's a lot of gargling and
it.
drowning involved in your own blood, so... she only partially recovered, but it stressed Poe out so much that he started heavily drinking. Yeah, I mean, not the best idea, but I also don't blame him.
Yeah, like, I get it.
Yeah.
I don't support it, but I get it.
I mean, I totally understand. So in 1845, his now super famous poem called The Raven was published in the Evening Mirror, and that basically, like, shot him to fame. Like, that was the thing that did it. Which is unfortunate that it took that long. He eventually would come to own his own publication called the Broadway Journal, but in 1846, that kind of went under. And he, like most people, when shit hits the fan, he's like, I gotta fucking move. I gotta get out of here. So,
haven't we all been there?
yeah. So he basically, like, picked up with his wife, moved to Fordham, New York, to a little cottage. But on January 30th, 1847, his wife Virginia died after battling...
You mean his cousin?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. His cousin wife, Virginia, died. Presumably because she had been fighting off tuberculosis for such a long time.
I feel like that can be assumed.
Yeah. So he became, like, super unstable and erratic after this and moved back to Richmond to find his first love, Sarah.
Oh.
Who he later became engaged to.
Oh, congrats, bro.
Bold of him to assume that she had gotten divorced or her husband died. But okay. So...
Wait, are we gonna get into that? Did she not?
Oh, no, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure he died, but...
I'm assuming that if they got engaged, she was no longer with that man.
Yeah, they had kids together, but I feel like I read that he died.
Okay.
So this is kind of where, like, we get into the dark bits.
The nitty-gritty.
Yeah. So before their wedding, he set out to New York to go and retrieve his aunt/mother-in-law, who...
Ex-mother-in-law.
Yes.
Current aunt, ex-mother-in-law.
So that just cancels it out. Now it's just his aunt.
I guess it does.
Things you don't think about on the daily, but very true.
Yeah. If I marry my cousin and then she dies, what is her mom to me?
Just your aunt.
Just your aunt.
Like, if him and Virginia had gotten divorced, she'd just be his cousin again.
Yeah,
right?
That's fair.
If they didn't have any kids, it'd just be his cousin again.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, just sweep it under the rug, man. It's water under the bridge.
You guys come to, like, fucking Thanksgiving, you're like, remember when we were married? Fucking awkward.
He's like, hey, Aunt Petunia, or should I say Mom?
Yeah. And she's like, shut the fuck up. Yeah, right. I should probably arrange that. Anyway, so he went to go, like, retrieve his now just aunt. And he left on September 28th. So, fast forward a couple days.
Sure.
On October 3rd, he was found wandering the streets of Baltimore, pretty fucking delirious.
Huh. No aunt mother-in-law in tow.
No, he never actually made it up there.
Oh.
Yeah. Because this was on his way up there. So he had stopped at, I think he stopped in Philly? No, he couldn't have because Baltimore's before that. He was supposed to make a stop in Philly to, like, do some kind of, like, business dealings.
Okay.
Like, on his way up there. So he had, like, quite the lineup and itinerary planned.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, stopped or was found in Baltimore, completely fucking delirious. Important thing to note was that he was found by Ryan's Tavern, which is also known as Gunner's Hall, which at that point was being used as, like, a ballot station for the upcoming election.
Okay.
And he appeared to look really disheveled. His clothes were stained and shabby, which was very, like, unlike him. Like, he dressed
he
very,
was a pretty
like...
proper dude.
He's pretty fancy fuck,
Mm-hmm.
He's a writer. Mm-hmm. He's got to dress fancy.
Yeah, you're either,
homeless or you're fancy.
Exactly.
There's no...
Exactly. You're either Johnny Depp in The Secret Window or you're Edgar Allan Poe. There's no in between.
Yes. Absolutely. That's very spot on. It was believed that his clothes were not even of his own. His hair was a fucking mess. His face was disgustingly dirty. Like, somebody, I guess, who was coming out of the tavern found him and, like, asked him, like...
You okay, buddy?
Bro, what the fuck is this? And, like, Poe was able to tell him, like, that he had a friend in Baltimore. So, like... This is so stupid. But the guy wrote his friend, like, a letter, like, to tell him, hey, your buddy's, like, in the street here, and he doesn't look good, so, like,
did he get,
help.
like, a horse to deliver immediately?
Sent by owl.
Yeah, like, that's not gonna get there in time.
That's what I was like, what do you mean he sent a fucking letter? What were you people doing?
He's got, like, 4 hours before he passes out and throws up his own vomit.
Yeah, like okay, yeah. Take time to fucking get out your fucking quill and ink. calligraphy style a fucking letter and send it by post.
Cool. The donkey will deliver it in a few
Yeah,
days.
yeah. Attach it to the fucking carrier pigeon that you just found on the street. Makes no fucking sense to me. But he was basically incoherent. He was in and out of consciousness up until his death. Therefore, he could not explain how he got there, what had happened to him. He did end up being cared for by a doctor named John Joseph Moran at Washington College Hospital. And over the course of, like, the next couple days, his condition, like, really deteriorated. He was denied visitors and was housed in a section of the hospital that was reserved for drunks. Like, how many drunks do you have that you have to have a section of the hospital for it?
Man, you ever read, like, any accounts of the 1800s? Everybody was, like, on opium, getting drunk on the daily. They were, like, doing cocaine.
Have you seen the 1800s? I don't believe
Yeah,
them.
they're fucking crazy, man.
Fuck that. So, Moran is, like, widely considered to be, like, not credible, though.
Okay.
He changed his story as to, like, what had happened over those past couple days numerous times, but for sake of argument, we're just kind of gonna go with what he said.
Sure.
Because I don't have anything else to go off of. But he claims that he tried to make Poe feel better by telling him that he would soon be enjoying the company of friends. But he also claims that Poe replied to that with, and I quote, "The best thing his friend could do would be to blow his brains out with a pistol."
Oh, man.
For somebody who's incoherent.
I don't mean to laugh at that, but, bro. What the fuck?
You okay? You wanna talk about it?
Yeah.
I don't believe that, though. Because, like, once again, if he was really that incoherent, to come up with a full sentence like that...
I don't not believe it because, like, I say stuff that dark on the daily at work.
Yeah, but are you incoherent?
Sometimes.
Were you found in a gutter?
No, I just wish I were in one.
Did we just pull you out of a gutter for how long ever you've been there because your friend had to fucking write a letter?
That's fair.
Like,
fair. Yeah.
So
Maybe he, like, pieced it together.
I don't know.
Drips
Maybe
and
he just
drabs.
assumed that's something he
Yeah,
would
maybe
say.
he said, like, gun.
Yeah. Pistol. And he's like, oh, I can form a sentence with this. Well, Moran also claims that his last words were, "Lord help my poor soul."
That I don't really believe.
See,
He
that's
doesn't
more
really seem
believable
like
to me.
the self-pitying type.
But I mean, if he's like in and out of consciousness, I can believe a short sentence like that over like this long ass fucking thing.
Yeah.
So, 5 a.m. on October 7th, 4 days after being admitted to the hospital, at age 40, he died. Yeah. So this is basically there's a lot of theories that are involved into like what caused his death. So there was no medical records or a death certificate. Or they've been lost. No autopsy was performed. So, like, there's a lot of, like, weird, sketchy shit involved in
Yeah.
this. And, like, I don't know how good record keeping was at that point. Like,
Yeah. Like, how many bodies do they not do an autopsy on when they've been in the drunk tank for, like, 5 days?
I mean, I guess, like, in this one, they probably should have because... Not that I think, like, famous people deserve special treatment because you don't.
No,
But, like, also...
he was pretty well known.
Yeah, like, you're looking at him going, I know who this is. How the
Yeah.
fuck... What's going on here?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to kind of run down the list of theories that we have here because there's a lot and they're fucking weird.
Okay.
So the first one is just like hypoglycemia. They thought
He just
they
had, like, real low sugar.
yeah, they thought that like he might have had diabetes at some point.
Oh.
But,
poor
like,
Poe.
Big assumption.
Yeah, it is a pretty big assumption.
Yeah, like come on. So, second one is that he was murdered.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun dun dun. This theory was proposed by John Evangelist Walsh. He claims that Poe's fiance's 3 brothers attacked him in Philly because they were against him marrying his sister. So then Poe fled to Baltimore, disguised himself to try to, like, hide from them. But they found him, forced him to drink alcohol, and then beat him and left him for dead.
Well, I was thinking that, like, murder wasn't out of the question. That story seems a little far-fetched.
Dumb.
Yeah, like, I was thinking, like, oh, maybe somebody, like really hated his work and had, like, or maybe he had gotten in trouble previously for gambling. Maybe, like, he owed somebody a lot of money and they drugged him up real bad, you know?
I mean, it's not out of the question, but yeah, that story is, like, a lot of people like do not believe that, and it's
yeah.
like the guy wrote a whole book on it, but like you're reaching, like
Yeah,
you're really
yeah, I
reaching. You've
agree.
like nothing to back that up with.
No.
Another theory was that he had an underlying illness, because before he left for New York, he saw a doctor complaining of fever and weak pulse. And in July of that year, he told his aunt, "I've been so ill, have had the cholera or spasms quite as bad, and now can hardly hold the pen." So something probably was going on.
Yeah, I
But-
mean, that doesn't seem unlikely.
No, not at all. And I
Yeah.
mean, they're probably not like rapidly diagnosing things at that point. Like,
If they know what, like, certain things
yeah,
are.
I don't know how like developed our medicine was around that
Yeah,
time, like
yeah.
that we could determine things like that. Another one was that he had epilepsy, which like that can cause seizures, fainting, fatigue, muscle spasms, amnesia, anxiety, depression. So he has like some symptoms of it, but
Yeah.
I don't think that leaves you like so confused for days.
Not unless you had, like, a really, like, a seizure on top of a stroke or something like
Yeah.
that.
There's also meningitis, which was fever, chills, fatigue, confusion, fast heart rate, and sleepiness. Which I think like that kind of can deteriorate you relatively quickly.
Yeah, or like, what if he had that on top of
Something
epilepsy?
else. I mean, he could have.
Yeah.
Brain cancer was another theory. Difficulty walking, muscle weakness, incoordination, inability to speak, and mental confusion.
Okay.
So there's like another theory about that I recently read, that he had like a tumor, because somebody said like, I don't think I wrote any of this down, but I remember reading it. He basically when he was buried in like the back of Westminster, which I mean I don't know how many people have been there, but we've been there. So like, you know that back cemetery that's like you have to walk down a weird alley to get to. He was originally buried back there in like an unmarked grave.
Okay.
So like years after he died, they decided to move him to that front one. But when they opened up his casket, like, I mean, it was years after. He's pretty badly decayed.
Yeah, yeah.
But they found something in his skull that was like rattling around. So everyone
Oh.
was like, "Oh, it's his brain." But like your brain is the first thing to deteriorate once you die. So then apparently if you have a brain tumor, that can calcify and that can be left behind.
Huh, that's interesting.
But I don't know how true that is either. Like,
Right.
everyone kind of says something different. Another theory is like severe alcoholism, which like obviously ran in his family.
Yeah, and, like, he was a pretty severe alcoholic.
At the time though, supposedly he wasn't. So like the alcoholism can cause delirium, blackouts, anxiety, slurred speech, incoordination. But the doctor that treated him said that he didn't have any smell of alcohol on him at all. Like he wasn't showing that he was like drunk. He was also at that time like a really big supporter of the temperance movement, which was against the consumption of alcohol. And he had given up alcohol like months prior.
Oh, wow.
And like a lot of his friends said that he was like very strict about that because he knew it had such like a detrimental effect on like his family life and everything else. So he was like pretty adamant about not doing that. But on the other end of that, like if he drank at all, he was like super lightweight. Like one drink could set him off.
Right.
So like it's not unheard of for like
an alcoholic to go on a bender.
Yeah.
Or an ex-alcoholic.
Yeah. Another one, which is like, this is kind of my favorite one, and I didn't believe it at first, but the more that I read into it, I'm like, kinda, maybe. Rabies. Yes. Rabies. Actually, no, I missed one. Attempted suicide.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we'll go back to that first. Sure.
It'll be quick. So, they said that he was suffering from a major depressive episode before his death, but like, I don't know.
If he hadn't tried thus far...
He did overdose on, like, drugs a couple years prior, but they think that was by accident because, like, the drugs that they were using for, like, headaches and things like that were easy to overdose on. So that could have been an accident. But anyway, rabies. So rabies, as we know,
I am well aware.
can cause fever, muscle spasms, confusion, delirium, dizziness, and hallucinations. What I did not know about rabies, and I don't know if you knew this, but the incubation period can be anywhere from 10 days to 2 years.
I did know that because I have experience.
2 years?
Yes. Yeah.
I didn't know that. But it's usually between 1 and 3 months. So they said that they found no bites on him. But like,
But if it had been like a year and a half earlier.
yeah. And it kind of fits with like if in July he was experiencing something, like, what if he had gotten bit sometime in the summer by something? And, like, a lot of people don't even realize that they've been bit by anything. So, like...
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you would probably know because, like, anything that would be rabid is going to be big enough that you would notice if it bit you. You're not getting bit by, like, a mosquito with rabies.
No. But, I mean, I don't know. From what I was reading, like, sometimes people just don't realize, like... in, like, the heat of a moment like that.
Yeah.
Like, if you're swatting away a bat, that
could be potentially true.
You don't know if it, like, bit you, unless you see, like, marks on you. So it's entirely possible that he could have...
It definitely is. It was a lot more common back then.
Because, like, after that, it's, like, you have only, like, between 2 and 10 days after the first, like, appearance of, like, actual symptoms before you die.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
like,
it's a very quick onset.
Yeah. So, like, if he started having symptoms in, like, you know, on October 3rd or whatever, and died on October 7th, that's pretty much in that time frame.
Yeah.
Not unheard of.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know how they don't know that there weren't bites found on him if they didn't do an autopsy.
That's true.
Like, were they looking him over? Like...
Were you guys doing, like, a half autopsy?
Yeah, what... You're just like, take his clothes off. It's fine. That's it.
Let's just see
good.
what he's working with.
Yeah, like, we'll deal with what's on the outside. Fuck what's on the inside.
Yeah. And,
so,
like, what sucks about that, too, is that it's been so long that we'll never know. Like, I don't know that DNA tests or anything like that would show.
Well, they
so
did
posthumus.
eventually do, like, in 2006, they sampled his hair.
Okay.
And tested that, and it ruled out that he had mercury or lead poisoning, as well as any other heavy metal poisoning.
Okay.
Which I also read that, like, in ruling out, like, the lead poisoning, that can rule out that he was, like, on, like, an alcohol binge, too.
Okay.
Because there wasn't high levels of that found in his hair. So, kind of does rule that out. And then the last one, which is kind of what everyone goes with at this point, is called cooping. I don't know if it's cooping or cooing. I don't know. But it's, like, basically, like, this violent and aggressive method of voter fraud, which is used to win elections for particular candidates. So people were kidnapped, force-fed alcohol, beaten, dressed in different outfits, and then forced to vote for a candidate numerous times at different locations.
What?
Yeah.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. But fits.
It does.
He's in clothes that aren't his own. Acting real fucking weird.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's
and was
incredibly
found
violent.
in front of a fucking ballot station.
Yeah.
During an election.
Wow, that's really, really violent.
So, that, as I said, seems to kind of be, like, the prevailing theory. But, like, some people kind of criticize that because they're like, that he's, like, too recognizable for that to actually work.
Yeah, for them to, like, do that to him, of all people, it'd be like doing it to, like, Stephen King now.
Yeah, like, you're gonna know who that is.
Somebody there is gonna recognize him.
Especially since he has friends in that city. Like, come on.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I'm kind of... I don't know if it's the most believable, but I like the rabies theory best.
The rabies theory is my favorite because it makes a lot of sense to me.
It does, yeah, and it's weird.
And, like, in the book that I have, which is, like, the Unsolved Crimes, that, like, kind of just, like, adds it as, like, an aside at the end.
Also,
it's like,
Pocoda had rabies. Have a nice day.
Yeah, well, that's what it basically... It, like, dedicates a whole page to telling you nothing. Like, it shows a picture of a dog that has rabies, which, like... Okay, cool. But, like, their argument is that, like, oh, well, he wasn't afraid of water. But there's two different types of rabies. Like, one where they are afraid of water, which is the most common, but there's another one which they're not.
Yeah.
They show no fear towards that.
Like, I don't know that would be enough to rule it out.
Yeah. Well, and also, not everyone shows a fear of water.
Right.
So, I don't know why they're basing it off of that.
No.
Like,
yeah.
Somebody who knows about fucking rabies, like...
It's me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there is somebody in this room who's rabies vaccinated, and it's you.
Post-exposure.
Yeah. So, not saying it was rabies, but not saying it wasn't rabies.
Look, I'm an expert, and I say it was probably rabies.
Oh, well, the other stuff, like, so for me, it's either rabies, the cooping, or, like, some kind of underlying illness.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that any of those can be, like, definitively ruled out.
I agree. I agree.
And, like, you're right. We're never going to know.
Right.
So.
Yeah, like, that's what sucks about that now is it'd be so interesting to know what actually happened, but everybody who could have potentially told us is long dead, and his remains are probably far too decayed to give us any real answers.
I mean, they were decayed, like, a couple years after them digging him back up.
Right.
So, I also didn't know that they had buried him in the back of that cemetery. Because, like, the back of that cemetery is fucking gnarly.
Yeah. If I remember it correctly, which I don't have the best memory, but...
I mean, I have pictures that remind me, so me exploring that part of the cemetery. It's just, like, not... Even the front is, like, falling apart. Like, I mean, his is the best... Well, like, it's the most well-kept there, but I think it's because it's paid for by the city, so, they gotta keep it nice. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, that's that, and that's all I have for you on the weird and mysterious unsolved death of Edgar Allan Poe.
Well, thank you. That was quite interesting.
You're very welcome. Alrighty. Now... we bring you the most wonderful thing called an ad.
She's lying. It's just an ad.
Okay, fine.
All right, so I'm just gonna... This one comes with a little bit of, preface. I'm super nervous about this. I never wanted this show to be political or controversial in any way. However, I think that we have a platform. Even if that platform reaches 10 people at maximum, I think it is not only our privilege and our right, but our responsibility to use that platform to talk about important topics.
I wish you would have told me that before I chose a fucking old white dude to talk about.
I think that's okay, though, because it was a little bit of levity, because I don't know that this is going to be, like, a super lighthearted... I mean, I think it'll be fine. I'm not going to make anybody cry or anything, but...
Mine was not lighthearted. Dude fucking suffered death, like, everywhere. But okay.
So, I'm talking about Daisy Bates today.
Okay.
She was a civil rights activist.
Wait. Sources, please.
Oh, right, yes. Womenshistory.org, biography.com, and history.com.
Okay.
Daisy was born in Huttig, Arkansas. Sorry, not Arizona. Jesus Christ, Kayla already.
Okay.
Huttig, Arkansas in 1914.
Okay.
Her birthday is 11/11, which I think is really nice. When she was 3 years old... her mother, she's an African-American, her mother was raped and killed by 3 white men.
Oh my god.
Her father left her after that, and Daisy was raised by some family friends.
Okay.
At the age of 15, she met her future husband, Lucius Christopher Bates, sometimes known as L.C. Bates.
Okay.
In the 1940s, they got married and moved to Little Rock, Arkansas. Which also, like, side note, why do we pronounce Arkansas and not Arkansas?
I think about this a lot.
Or, like, should we pronounce Arkansas, Arkansas, or Kansas, Kansas?
I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, they began publishing their own African-American newspaper. It was called the Arkansas Weekly, and it was a publication dedicated to the civil rights movement of the era.
Cool.
Yeah, very cool. Bates was both an editor and a writer for the paper.
What year was this?
That was in the 1940s sometime, no specific year. In 1952, Bates became the president of the Arkansas chapter of the NAACP.
Good for her.
This role obviously gave her, like, a huge chance to grow and, like, create change in her local community. In 1954, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Brown versus Board of Education case, which, I mean, everybody knows that case. We learned about it in school. But that case made it unconstitutional to have the segregation of blacks and whites in schools. It ruled that equal but separate education was neither legal nor was it constitutional, and it was, it violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment.
Okay.
It was a enormous landmark case in the civil rights movement. Very, very important. The Bates wrote about the court proceedings in their paper, which I thought was pretty interesting.
That's awesome.
And then after the ruling in Brown versus Board of Ed, Bates was called upon to help enroll black children into, like, previously all-white schools as the president of the NAACP.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, very, very cool. despite the like changing laws of the time, a lot of schools still refuse to allow black children to enter predominantly white schools.
Which is bullshit.
Yes, yeah. Bates used her newspaper to like celebrate the schools that would allow it and call out the ones that didn't.
Which we should be doing nowadays too.
Yeah, yeah.
And calling out the fucking shitty people of the world. But
I know.
I digress.
In 1957, Bates helped to organize the Little Rock Nine, it's pretty famous. I'm not gonna like delve too deep into it because we all know about the Little Rock Nine. It was a group of 9 hand-selected black students who would be transferring to Central High School in Little Rock. The governor at the time, I didn't write down his name. It was something weird. I don't remember. Was like heavily against the integration and called in the Arkansas National Guard to protect the school. I'm quoting, protect the school. Yeah.
Sorry, I just rolled my eyes so hard I saw my fucking brain.
I know. A lot of this was on their first day, which was September 4th. A lot of angry parents were like outside jeering at the kids. There were, you know, anti-integration parades. It was a big thing. Bates basically served as an advisor to these students. Her home became like a unspoken headquarters for the Little Rock Nine. She wound up being the one to drive them to and from the school on a daily basis, and she wound up serving on like their PTA, essentially, like their parents' organization. And she wasn't the parent of any of them.
Good for you to take on kids.
Super cool, yeah. The standoff lasted until President Eisenhower stepped in, and finally on September 25th, the kids were allowed to go to school for the first time there.
That makes me so fucking mad.
I know. It's so frustrating. Due to Bates' activity in the integration, she was often faced with, like, horrible discrimination and hatred. People sent her threats. They threw rocks at her house. And they even mailed her bullet shells.
This makes me very angry.
I know. The Bates were forced to shut down their newspaper because of all the like hatred that they faced. But she was not deterred by this. She marched on, and she continued to work on the integration of the education system in Arkansas. She worked in like several different towns, helping with the integration, yada yada. She did end up publishing a book about the Little Rock Nine. And she was awarded multiple prizes and recognitions, both during her lifetime and posthumously.
Wow.
She was awarded the Medal of Freedom in 1999, which was after her death.
When did she die?
On November 4th, 1999.
Oh, she lived a long time.
Yeah, and it was like days before her birthday.
Oh. Wow.
The third Monday in February is Daisy Gadsden Bates Day in her honor, which I didn't know.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. She also received an honorary degree from the University of Arkansas.
Good old Arkansas. Look at them.
That's really like all I have on this subject, but I thought that it was just really important to like bring something with a little bit more levity or not levity, I guess the opposite of levity to the table, because I think that it's our responsibility to make sure that voices of everybody are heard and that we are here to fight for the people in any small way that we can.
I feel like an asshole right now.
No, it's totally okay.
Like,
it's totally okay, though. I think that this is,
because like
this is the only thing I can do to help, you know, and I don't know that this is helpful.
I mean, like I said, I thought about it.
I know.
And like I wanted to text you about it, but then I'm like, I really do this stuff last minute. Like, I know. Last minute. And, like, it deserves so much more than that. And,
I know. That's why I chose, like, a person, because I don't want to go over... I don't want this to be... This isn't a political issue, first of all. This is a civil rights issue. But I also don't want the show to be about politics. But I also think that we made a promise to teach people this stuff they didn't learn about in school.
It's fair.
You know?
I mean, in response to that, I did actually bring with me something to kind of build on that, but also to kind of build on just what is actually going on in the world right now.
Yeah, let's talk about it a little bit.
Because it is really important that we do talk about it.
I agree. And that's what I was hoping doing such a short little piece would open up.
Like, I didn't do a story on it, but I did find, like, this really big quote that came to me last night because, I mean, as you know, I have been listening to the Harry Potter books. Mm-hmm. And, like, if you haven't read the Harry Potter books, they're so... It's, like, creepy how parallel they are to what's going on in the world right now.
It is. It's very surprising.
So there was just, like, there happened to be, like, a very large quote, which I copied down to read, that kind of... It really reminded me of, like, not only the issues that were going on with, like, that we're dealing with today in regards to, like,
Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, like, race... No, I know. Mm-hmm. In regards to, like, racism and, like, white supremacy and, like... Let's be real, our fucking president isn't doing anything about it. And the people who don't actually believe that this is an issue.
Yes.
Like, I mean, you've read these books. You know that there's people in there that don't believe certain things are an issue. Mm-hmm. And look where it got them.
Yeah.
So, there was like a really... I have to find it underneath. Brought my notebook for a reason today. So, it is kind of a large quote, but...
It's okay, we got time.
We do. And I'm not going to get in trouble for reading it because J.K. Rowling's a fucking piece of work.
Don't even, that's a whole nother topic.
I'm just gonna preface this with, I know she's fucking dirt, and I'm gonna ignore the fact that she wrote these books because these books mean everything to me.
Yes.
And she's a trash person.
Yeah.
So we're gonna ignore that. So kind of gonna spoil a couple things here really quick because I mean it's been years. You should have read these books.
There are no spoiler alerts on Harry Potter. It's been out for 20 years.
It's been out for fucking ever. So like you should know by now. But basically, like Voldemort is like the equivalent of like our president for the most part, and like I feel like the government in Harry Potter is the equivalent to almost our own government.
Yeah,
and it's very frustrating. So this is from the 4th book. This is at the very end. We all know Cedric dies, so it's going to mention Cedric if you don't know who he is, but it's going to mention him, and I had to copy it down word for word, so some of it might not make sense in the context of this, but I also didn't want to leave anything out because like the whole thing is important. So, they said it's kind of long, but we're going to go for it. And here we go. So, this is, as I said, from the 4th book. And it starts off with, when everyone had once again resumed their seats, Dumbledore continued. The Triwizard Tournament's aim was to further and promote magical understanding. In the light of what has happened, of Lord Voldemort's return, such ties are more important than ever before. Dumbledore looked from Madame Maxime and Hagrid to Fleur Delacour and her fellow Beauxbaton students, to Victor Crumb and the Durmstrangs at the Slytherin table. Crumb, Harry saw, looked wary, almost frightened, as though he expected him to say something harsh. Every guest in this hall, said Dumbledore, and his eyes lingered upon the Durmstrang students, will be welcome back here at any time, should they wish to come. I say to you all, once again, in light of Lord Voldemort's return, we are only as strong as we are united, as weak as we are divided. Lord Voldemort's gift for spreading discord and enmity is very great. We can fight it only by showing an equally strong bond of friendship and trust. Differences of habit and language are nothing at all if our aims are identical and our hearts are open. It is my belief, and never have I so hoped that I am mistaken, that we are all facing dark and difficult times. Some of you in this hall have already suffered directly at the hand of Lord Voldemort. Many of your families have been torn asunder. A week ago, a student was taken from our midst. Remember Cedric. Remember, if the time should come when you have to make a choice between what is right and what is easy, remember what happened to a boy who was good and kind and brave, because he strayed across the path of Lord Voldemort. Remember Cedric Diggory.
I have chills.
It just, like, I finished that book last night, and, like, that was at the very end, and I was like, man, I forgot about this. But, like, how spot on is it to, like, what we're currently facing?
Yeah, and I think that it's just so important to stand up in any way you can and make your voice heard, whether it's on social media, whether it's through any little platform you have, whether it's going to a protest or just standing up to, like, that racist family member that just won't shut up.
Like, it is. It's like you
it's
can't
the
be
only
afraid
thing
to
you
not.
can do.
Yeah. Like, if you can't do anything else, like, just stand up to the people who are fucking making this so much worse.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
like, those are the people that need to be driven out in order for, like, us to make any sort of change.
Yes, and those you won't be able to change anybody's mind because that's
No.
just the way it is. But being silent is being complicit, and you do not gain anything from being quiet.
No, not at
The
all.
only way we can gain and truly move forward is to make everybody's voices known. And that has to start with the people who have the power, aka the white people.
Well, it's like, it kind of reminds me too, like, when, like, you're a kid and they tell you, like, oh, if you see bullying happen and you don't do anything, you're just as bad as the person,
just as
like,
bad.
as the person doing the bullying.
Yes.
It's the same thing.
Yes.
If you see this going on and you're not doing anything about it, you're just as bad because you're basically just, like, digging your head in the sand and ignoring that it's happening,
Yes.
which is why there's no change that's occurring, because you're ignoring that it's happening. And, like, it's
not
happening.
enough to just be like not something. You have to be avidly anti. You have to use your voice and speak out against it. And I felt, and I mean, we've talked about this plenty off mic, but I think that it's really important for us to use our voice.
Yeah. Well, it's the only thing we have. So
It is. It's the only
it's
thing
literally
we
like
have.
I wish I could offer more. I just have nothing else to
Right.
offer, you know?
Right.
Like, so for me, yeah, like, I'm going to call you out on your shit because
Right.
it's not fair that you treat people like this,
No,
you know?
no.
Like, it's 2020. Why the fuck are we still at this point where we have to tell people, hey, you shouldn't be a racist.
Right.
Hey, this person who may have different color skin than you is equal to you, no matter
Yes.
what. They're
Yeah,
equal to
yeah.
you. They deserve the same pay as you. They deserve the same fucking treatment as you. Like, I don't understand why we still have to go over this.
Right,
Like,
right.
why have we not learned this by
No.
now? So it's just really fucking frustrating. And you're right. Like, this is kind of all we have to come out with it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So, I mean, like, even if 10 people hear it, whatever. We did.
listen, you
We did our
15
piece.
people. Do
God damn
something. God damn it, I demand that you do something.
So I guess, like, with that being said, you probably have, do you have a book recommendation for this week?
I was just going to recommend the book that I got my Edgar Allan Poe stuff from.
Yeah, go for
but
it.
It's called Unsolved Crimes by Sarah Herman. It's got a bunch of stuff in it. So there's, like, unsolved murders, unsolved disappearances, and, like, I like true crime. So, like, that one I just happened to pick up at the bargain bin in Barnes & Noble. But it has some, like, weird things in it, and they're just quick, like, it's, like, 2-page little, like, stories that goes
Okay.
over stuff. But you can also read the works of Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah,
So there's
yeah.
that too. So that's all I got.
I've got a couple. I've
ahead.
got, obviously, if you're interested in learning more about Daisy Bates or the Little Rock Nine, go ahead and pick up her book. It's called The Long Shadow of Little Rock, obviously by Daisy Bates. And then I've been reading on my Kindle a book by Robin DiAngelo. It's called White Fragility, Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism. And it's been super enlightening. I'm not super far into it yet, but if anybody is interested in learning more about the Black Lives Matter movement or how you can do your own part in ending racism, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I feel bad because I didn't know a lot about her, and I mean it would make sense that like there was another person involved in like the Little Rock Nine, but I just
Yeah. I mean,
didn't
but
know.
like the history books don't want you to know that. It's the world we live in.
you know what's funny is that like those history books get rewritten every single year to add in new
and
events, and
none
they
of them
never,
have ever mentioned her.
They never edit anything. They never edit anything to correct themselves.
Nope.
Nothing. They just
Nope.
keep putting out these fucking volumes without going back and going, hey,
Yeah.
we need to change this.
It's because history is written by the victor, and the victor is the one that sits in power, and we all know who sits in power.
Yeah, well, fuck that shit. So now I'm fired up.
I know.
So that's all we have for you guys.
Sorry to bring everybody down a little bit.
gonna
and
say
get
this-
serious.
Our
I'm
episode
sorry.
is kind of a downer this week, but
sorry,
I mean,
I'm
sometimes it
sorry.
needs to be.
Yeah, I think it's important that
So-
sometimes we can't always be funny.
I know. Well, enjoy.